What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Landscape Accelerator Podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Dan, the lawn man. Dan, go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, some of the services you offer, and then we'll jump into some questions.
Hey, what's up, everybody? So apologies up front. As I was speaking, I don't have a designated spot for a meeting. So if you hear any audio background noise, I do apologize, but we're trying to make this entertaining and knowledgeable as much as possible for you guys. Pretty sure there's going to be a lot of great tips, a lot of great questions that are going to be asked, and hopefully questions that you guys have we can go ahead and answer for you. So I am Dan the Lawman, known across social media. You guys could also call me Danny. I got into the landscape business roughly about now 8 or maybe 10 years ago. Pretty much I started my journey just as a lot of other entrepreneurs out there. I started with mowing. It was just strictly mowing. There was no application services done yet. Had a good amount of customers. Everything was working fine.30 as I slowly progressed in this career, I slowly noticed that going out and mowing a lawn for 30 to 45 minutes, making a decent profit, wasn't adequate enough for what I wanted. So I jumped into the applicating side shortly after. I was doing both services for a lot of customers. However, health issues started progressing with me, which we could get into that later. And I slowly started digressing myself from mowing services and going into applicating services. The reason why is if you go out to a lawn and mow it for 45 minutes and make $60 out of it, I could go out and applicate on a lawn for 10 minutes and make the same $60 out of it. So, and I'm not putting my health out there in risk with the heat, especially here in South Florida. And I love seeing customers' reactions when they start having a nicer lawn and they start seeing it progress and they start getting, into the lawn as well. Like, for instance, I'll have a family. They're like, I don't even enjoy my backyard because it's just so horrible. I don't even want to see it. I just pretty much let my dog loose, and that's about it. And nowadays, I've had families that they'll just put barbecue pits out there because they are so happy with how their backyard looks now that they can have events out there and they can enjoy family time out there because it's just so beautiful. And, the landscape, could give you a good vibe to be outside as well. So that's something that also touches me. And the reason why I kept going into this business and strictly stayed in the applicator side.
100%.
And as far as social media, I just pretty much started social media because people were, wondering and asking questions and how do you do this and how do you do that? And although a lot of my social media is at home, generally what I do outside in client lawns, I try to show it on social media as well.
Right. Yeah, I did a deep dive on your Instagram, and there's a lot of really helpful tips, especially some of your live streams and stuff. I went through and watched those, and dude, you answer a lot of probably the most commonly asked questions. And for someone kind of like myself who has very little experience and no real idea when it comes to chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, pre and post emergent, answering some of the frequently asked questions about those things, content was super helpful. So guys, I'll make sure when we post this, we'll have all of Dan's stuff linked down below. You guys can go check out some of his content, but we're going to answer as many questions as possible here too for you guys. So to kind of backtrack a little bit, before getting into landscaping, what were you doing before that? What kind of previous experience did you have, or what kind of was going on in your life before you got into, landscaping, lawn care, treatments and stuff like that?
I was just your average Joe. Full-time job, regular full-time job, a dad, husband, first-time homeowner. I was just your average Joe. I did get into landscaping at a later age. Unfortunately, I wasn't brought up into this. I lived in apartment complexes my whole life, so I never had the opportunity to enjoy a front yard, a backyard, or anything like that. So once we purchased our first house, and I saw how everybody else's yard was nicer, That got me into it. Um, However, I took the route of going to my local county extensions office and getting information from them and getting the knowledge from them. And I slowly started noticing that that it's something that anybody could do if you really have the heart and the passion to this. And then you get your certifications, your licenses, and stuff like that. It's a progress. It's not something simple, but it's something that anybody who has a passion for this to do, even if it's just a side hustle, they could definitely do it.
100%. So on that note, I know that there's probably a lot of things that differ maybe between state to state or different areas. But when it comes to Florida, where we're based out of, what are some of the laws, regulations, certifications, or some of the legal stuff that you kind of have to get knocked out before you can start treating this like a business or going out and servicing other properties?
Yeah, well, there's a lot that goes hand in hand with a business and the certifications. You can't just go out there and start putting stuff in other people's lawns. It's if you're a residential person and you want to do it on your own lawn, that's completely fine. There's a lot of Florida guidelines that you still have to abide by, and a lot of people do not know that, such as blackout periods, the amount of fertilizer that you could put into your lawn, and those are the same requirements that you have to carry over to your certification licenses. Rather, it's a pesticide license. There's quite a bit of licenses that you could obtain. The very simplest one, just to get your feet wet, would be your fertilizer license. It's about a 2-hour course. You get to know a little bit of the ins and outs of regulations when it comes to fertilizer applications. And that also goes with watering. That also goes with grass clippings that a lot of people tend to not be very knowledgeable about. But once you get your feet wet on that, then you can jump over to the herbicide applications, which the next one you can get is pretty much a glyphosate license that you could only apply glyphosate products around maybe flower beds and non-edible garden or vegetation areas. You know, that's probably your next stepping stone. After that, you're going to have to get a different license that now requires you to work certain hours under somebody who has a license that they applicate herbicides, fungicides, pre-emergence, insecticides, stuff like that, because that's very harmful, especially knowing that Florida is surrounded by waterways. Any which way you look at it, there's a canal, there's a lake, there's a river, there's oceans around us. All of that plays a part on getting to know the requirements for these licenses.
Right. So the biggest thing there, water for sure. What are some of the biggest things that you need to be concerned about, especially if you're putting down, chemicals that can be harmful? What are some of the biggest things that are on your mind when you're applying these treatments, as far as, that checklist in the back of your head, just making sure that you're doing it the right way and not putting either yourself, your client, or the environment at risk by, laying down these chemicals?
The number one thing, as we know very well, thunderstorms, the washouts. You have to be very careful with that. I always try to plan ahead my applications at least 3 days ahead. If I see that within 24 hours we're going to get a heavy downpour, that's a no-go. Things could usually get washed off, especially if it's granular. Waterway canals, you have to stay at least 10 feet away from them for wash-off purposes. A lot of state regulations require, and it's very, very random. Somebody could just go out on a boat, test the water supplies, and if a high amount of nitrogen, you shouldn't be applying phosphorus, but potassium or any type of pesticide chemical comes out in that waterway. Believe me that the EPA and the local county extension office are going to check down on those residential areas to find out who is responsible for this, whether it's an applicator himself or rather it's a actual resident in that area. And you can get a nice hefty fine if you're caught, especially without a license.
Right.
So Yeah, definitely watch out for the thunderstorms if there's a heavy downpour coming in, and stay away at least 10 feet away from canal areas and waterways and stuff like that. The grass, people complain, the grass doesn't look good, you know, from this point to this point, but there's a reason for it. And there's products out there that can kind of help you, but you know, aquatic type products that are safe for those type of areas. But now we're talking about a license requirement to even purchase these type of products.
Okay. So it seems like, the further and the deeper into this world that you get, there's more licenses, more requirements, more certifications, kind of loopholes or, excuse me, like hoops that you have to jump through to obtain these things to be able to spray them legally, at least.
Yeah,
So,
that is correct.
so when it comes to the water treatments, what are some of those? And, what level do you think you have to be at to get that license for them?
Well, I don't want to mention any chemicals, but if you go on websites and look at aquatic herbicide killers, I'm sure you could get a good population pop up of them. Just follow the label and make sure you just follow the recommendations of how to apply it. That's the best advice I can give. Uh, the reason I say I don't want to mention these type of chemicals is because I don't want anybody to just go out there and buy it and apply it wrong. Um, do your own research, especially if it comes to chemicals that maybe you could purchase, but they're agricultural use or commercial use only. However, sometimes residential people could get a hold of these. Just follow the label. Label is law.
Right. Got it. So, what are some other things like maybe that a new person to the world of application, or even just the average homeowner that has decided they want to do something with their lawn? What are some products that they should, that you would steer them towards that are great, but also what are some that maybe the risk isn't worth the reward, whether it be them potentially injuring themselves or, hurting themselves due to the chemicals that are involved with that particular treatment? Or maybe just, that treatment has to be applied in a very specific way. Otherwise, you're going to, do more harm than good. So just to kind of rephrase that a little bit, for the average Joe, applications or treatments that you would recommend that are simple, you can't really screw it up. And then some that it's like, hey, maybe stay away from this unless you really know what you're doing.
Okay. So I have a checklist. If a new customer calls me, I have a checklist that I need to abide by first to make sure that they are the right fit for me, because I don't want to go out there, applicate, and we're not doing our parts. I could only do so much while the resident at home could do a lot more than I can. There's something about people think that there's a magical product to fix everything, but what they don't understand is there's probably three main ingredients that you need first to have a successful lawn, whether it's residential, commercial, sports field, anything, and that's adequate lighting, proper watering, and proper mowing. Once those three things are in check, then we can discuss what type of applications you need and what may be useful. And the next step, what I would recommend is doing a soil sample. A soil sample is going to tell you exactly what your lawn requires and what it doesn't need. In my business, I am very tentative to what my client needs. I'm very customizable. I am not a big, large corporation that I could just have a 200-gallon tank pre-mix, and that's what I'm applying to everybody. And it doesn't matter if that's what you need or if that's not what you need. That's what we're applying this month. That's what we're applying. I do a soil sample, and I know what I need to go by. Rather, it's pre-mixing at the customer's house, what they need, and then slowly progressing them into my monthly applications. So after your soil sample, you realize if you need maybe the main two factors, macros, which is phosphorus and potassium. There are soil samples out there that have a nitrogen test. It'll tell you how much nitrogen is in your soil. Do not look at that. I skip through that because nitrogen could easily go up, nitrogen could easily go down. A rainstorm could give you nitrogen. You just applied nitrogen last week and you have enough nitrogen in your lawn, and now it shows adequate amounts of nitrogen. But within 21 days, now you don't have nitrogen. So I would say skip that. Skip that completely. Your phosphorus levels and your potassium levels. Are you under the minimum? Are you at the minimum? Are you over the minimum? Those are usually your three numbers on your fertilizer bag: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Whatever you're under, you get the higher number. Whatever you're over, you get the lower number. So look at a soil sample, look at what you need when it comes to the macros, and apply that adequately, correctly, or what you need for your lawn. Usually 3 pounds per 1,000 is the case for everybody in their lawn. Maybe it's a little bit under, maybe it's a little bit over, but usually every single bag of fertilizer out there is usually 3 pounds per 1,000. The next thing you're going to want to follow is in the soil test, your microbes. Usually I check sulfur, iron, magnesium, manganese, zinc, copper. I don't pay too much attention to boron. But those key ones are the ones that are usually going to give you the best green up in your lawn. So if you're applying fertilizer, right? If you're applying fertilizer and it's growing, but it's not as green, maybe you need to pay a little bit more attention to your micros. And usually that's what helps to green up in your lawn. If your lawn is green, but it's not growing, maybe you need to pay attention to your macros. Now you want it to grow taller, but it's nice and green. So maybe fertilizer is what you need in your lawn. There are fertilizers out there that give you the complete package. It gives you everything, your macros, your micros. You could apply that. So we have the 3 things in check, which is your mowing, your watering, and your light situation, right? Adequate sunlight. Now you have your soil test that you can go by and purchase the right fertilizer that you need, the right micronutrients that you need. Now you have a lush green lawn. However, when you're feeding the lawn, you're feeding everything. That includes the weeds. Mm-hmm. Right? So the weeds are growing. Your lawn is growing. The weeds are growing. A lot of people are going to disagree with what I'm about to say, but I am a firm believer of this. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is. If you're just starting, a pre-emergent. I don't care if it's February, March, April, May, June, as long as the ground is not frozen and you're just starting off, a pre-emergent. Going to have some type of effect, not as much as it would at the right timing, but it's going to have some type of effect to move on to the next step. And the next step is killing the weed. And I suggest getting a herbicide. If you're just getting into this, getting a herbicide that is known as a 3-way herbicide. It usually has 3 different types of herbicides built into one, which could attack a lot of variety of weeds. And generally what I tell the public is if that 3-way herbicide does not kill a certain weed and it still looks green, lush, growing, but it's not killing it, look at the label, check the ingredients or the chemicals that it's using, go back to the store and find another herbicide that's for your grass type and get a different chemical for it. Or there is an application that you could use your phone, take a picture or video of the weed that you're trying to kill. It'll give you a general idea of what weed it is. Go back to the store, read the label, and look at the list of weeds that it has and see if that weed is on there and purchase that product and use it at the right amount. Now you can spray that weed.
Got it.
Right? And now you have your. So I'm sorry to repeat myself over and over, but you have your mowing, you have your watering, you have adequate sunlight, you have your soil test, you have your fertilizer, you have your micronutrients, you have your pre-emergents, and you have your herbicide, your weed killers. Stop right there. Do not need to get into fungus. We'll talk about that, but as a regular homeowner, to not get into many issues, stay out of the fungicides and stay out of the insect unless you really need to. And the reason I say that is because I've seen a lot of people applicating this very wrong, having children and pets involved, which that's a big no-no. And that's why you generally tell people stay away from it, especially if they're contacting me. When something like that happens that you need either one of those two products, I would suggest you contact me first so I can guide you the right way.
Right. So when it comes to the lawn stuff, the average person maybe following the steps you just laid out can handle that, but stay away from fungicide and insecticides.
Yeah, if you're just starting out, Google will tell you everything. Google will say, yeah, you have this fungus, apply this, and then you may apply it wrong, or you may dilute it wrong, or you spray it and you're not supposed to water it in, and you water it in, and we'll get into that later on. But for now, just following these steps, that's very easy. You should have at least by the end of the year a very nice lush green lawn compared to how when we started.
Right on. So the very first step of that process, the lighting, the mowing, and the watering, what are some things that people can do to improve those?
So on social media, you'll hear a lot of people talk about mowing, and they're always mowing. It's mowing, 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 mowing. The average person does not. I don't have time. My grass. I'm looking at my grass right now. It's overgrown. I don't have time for it. Right. The average person cannot come out here, especially in the hot sun, mow every 3 to 4 or 5 days, and keep their grass kept like that if they don't have a landscape company doing it for them. Yeah. There is something that this is a little bit more advanced, but the general public could use, and that's called like a. I'm sorry, I'm having a blank. Like T-Nex and a new. Oh gosh, I'm having a blank. A regulator for the grass, so it doesn't grow so often. I'm sorry, I'm having a blank. Plant growth regulator.
Okay, so it's a product you spray to control how much it grows or how fast?
How fast it grows. But generally, you want to try to keep your grass between, it all varies on what grass type you have. To make it simple, go to your local county extension office, wherever you live in the United States. They always have a website. Just look up on Google your state or your city, local county extension office, recommended height of cut, and stay between those guidelines. Some people like to cut a little shorter. Some people like to cut a little bit higher, but generally in those guidelines. Stay within that guideline and stay in the 1/3 rule. Right, 1/3 of the grass blade is getting cut, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly, and you're not causing harm to the grass long term. Meaning, I don't like to use this term, but stressing it out. Right, stressing out the grass. Keeping your blades sharp, right, for a nice clean cut. That's definitely in the checklist. And using the right type of mower. If you're going to be real mowing, keep real mowing. Don't go from real mower to regular mower to rotary mower to rotary mower to real mowing. Scientifically, I don't know how to put that, but I've seen things get damaged, harmed, and I've seen people just have to resod their whole lawn because they swap these two equipment. And usually when your grass is used to getting cut one way, that's generally how you're going to want to keep it. Okay. Real mode or rotary mode.
Got it. So one thing that I'm aware of, at least I'm from New Hampshire originally. And when we were doing lawn care stuff up there, specifically like mowing and stuff like that, there were some diseases that lawns would get. And if you weren't careful, you would mow a lawn that has that. and then you could spread that to all of the other customers because it's on the blades underneath the deck of the mower and stuff like that. In Florida or in other areas, I'm sure there might be some that are similar like that, or maybe weeds as well, things that can, the spores or seeds, whatever, get in the mower or something like that. So what are some, I mean, obviously there's like just general maintenance, sharpen your blades, clean your decks, change out your equipment, maintain all of it regularly. Is there anything else that guys that are doing lawn care or lawn mowing should be aware of as far as, things that they can do to not make problems that are existing on one lawn and, amplify that or spread that to other clients that are on their mowing route?
Bagging is a good alternative. I mean, if you really want to be top notch and you don't want all your customers to have a certain disease or a certain weed or whatever, bagging will always be your best choice, and blowing out your deck, at the end of each mow. It's only going to take you an extra 2 minutes, but it's that little bit of extra detail that customers see, that they're like, this is the guy.
Yeah.
100%. This is the guy that if it's my disease, it's my disease. I keep it in my lawn, but it's not going to somebody else's lawn, especially if you have a house right next door.
Yeah.
If you have a house right next door, you're just not you're not going with the zero tone from here to here to here to here. You're done here. You're blowing off the mower, and then you're going to the next lawn right over. Especially if the customer's outside, or some customers like to peek out the window to make sure things are going good. If they just see that little bit of detail, that one moment, they're gonna be like, I like this guy. Yeah, he's gonna be long term.
Yeah, that's huge. I know there's plenty of guys out there where you're out cutting, it's hot, you want to get done and get back to the shop, whatever. So it's mow, trim, blow, and go. But like you said, that extra just blow off the deck. That's huge. And maybe the trimmers too, depending on what kind of grass you're dealing with and how tall or where the clippings end up and stuff like that. So yeah, just dust off the equipment before you go and hit the next property. That's huge, I think.
Yeah, so, I actually have a story there. So I had a customer that I was mowing for right across the street, and every time I was done, it's little knick-knack stuff that the customers always are picky about, but I always did it to keep him around. I would mow the yard in front of him, and then he would always say, I need to see, and you blow off the deck before you go into my yard. I was like, okay, fine. That's perfect. It's only going to take me an extra 2 minutes to blow it off and an extra 4 seconds to send you the video. So I'll lift, I'll blow the deck, I'll send him the video, and then I have no problems. Just to avoid any problems, or how did this, even though they don't understand, but how did this weed pop into my lawn? Why do I have these spots now in my lawn? Or it came from that lawn, or et cetera, or whatever. And I also have I acquired my very first 20,000 square foot property. All of my properties were usually for applicating. All of my properties were usually 6,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet, in that range. I haven't had an acre property, and I haven't had a 20,000 square foot property. So this property was half an acre. I was so excited to get this property. It happened last year. Seems like the neighbor across, or to the side of that house, they had just resodded their entire lawn. Now, generally, when you resod, there's two things that you should be aware of and you should do. Not only do you have to stay on top of the watering to make sure that the sod catches good with the new roots, but generally, it's a good idea to put a fungicide and an insecticide in your sod. You could get armyworms, grubs coming from that sod farm that don't appear yet, but they will, or because of the imbalance of soil or whatever the case may be, or the cutting of the sod and placing it in a new area, could get a little bit stressed out. I hate using that term, but I'll use it again. And it could develop a disease. And this customer developed large patch. So large patch is a disease that it could spread easily, and especially with water. So not only was this neighbor's new sod getting watered daily, um, it developed large patch. It was not applicated for any insect or fungicide. So when it was its first time to finally mow that lawn, it looks like the landscape company that went out there to mow blew all the trimmings over to my client's lawn. And I had large patch developed there, and it was at least like 11,000 square feet that now I had to take care of because of the inconsistency of somebody else just blowing their clippings that had disease into somebody's lawn. So,
Hmm. So how did you resolve that situation? Is that something where you got to talk to the neighbor and be like, hey, can you say something to the guys that are mowing? And like, how did you resolve all that?
it's a very uncomfortable situation, but yes,
I
it's
bet.
a very uncomfortable conversation. But I did have to speak to the owner of the house. I had to let them see what was going on. And I also had to spray about 4,000 feet of area where the concrete almost hits my client's lawn to kind of help them with that because they wouldn't pay for the whole thing.
Right.
So I sprayed about 4,000 square feet of it, which was one backpack sprayer worth. I told them this is what I'll cover, just so that I don't have to deal with this if your lawn continues this way. And it's an uncomfortable situation, but yeah, I had to speak to the owner. I had to speak to the landscape company, and I did not want a heated moment or a bad conversation to grow gruesome with neighbors.
Yeah.
So I just politely asked the landscape company to blow the clippings that way. No harm, no foul. Took care of my customer's yard, and about 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, everything was completely fine again. Usually in that case, I would probably say, well, now you owe me, you owe him a free application here, but I didn't want to cause that issue between two neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fine line to walk where you obviously have been, hired to do a job and the other person's making your life kind of difficult. And the neighbors obviously don't want to pay to treat a problem that someone else is causing. Right. So yeah, definitely peaceful negotiations are the way to go about doing that and just making sure that everyone's on the same page. And, you know, obviously you don't want the homeowner that was starting with the issue to spread it elsewhere, or you probably want them to be aware of it so that they can treat it themselves or resolve it for themselves as well. So
Exactly. Yeah. And thankfully with that peaceful resolution, they asked me questions. They went to Home Depot. They bought a bio advanced, fungicide application that you can connect to a hose. They tried to take care of it the best as they can. And they've also, because of that, they also hired me to not maintain their lawn completely, but every 3 months to go out there and fertilize. It's just a strictly fertilizing application.
there you go. So it worked out for you either way.
So it worked out.
Right
Yeah.
on. So speaking of like clients and stuff like that, starting up your own business, how did you get your very first client?
So it all starts with family and friends,
Yeah.
right? You want to start with family and friends, and you want to advertise and kind of put yourself out there. So my truck had magnets. I would pass out flyers, even though that's not the age that we're in now, but you have to start somewhere. The way that I go about that is build the income first, build the profit first before going advance into anything else, such as Google advertisements or paying for Instagram advertisements and stuff like that. Build up that revenue before you go out and waste all this money that you don't have the income coming in for. That is my advice whenever I get asked that. I know it's not the digital age, but you can make it so. You can put a QR code to make it simple for the person, stuff like that. But flyers, friends, and family. That's how I went about getting my first couple of customers at that point. Family and friends, I would just, hey, $10 just so people could, $20 just so people could see me mow, right? or or if you know anybody, here's my card, stuff like that. And referrals, in general, referrals were my biggest uh, um, attention grabbers.
Yeah.
I mean, I spent a good amount of money advertisement on Instagram, on Facebook, on Google Ads, Nextdoor app.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I was everywhere. And the majority of my customers came from referrals. Once they started seeing the good work and the steady progress and stuff like that, referrals would always come in. And I would give an incentive to whoever gave me a referral. Um, hey, $10 off your next mow, or $10 off your next application. Or if I get, 2, 3 referrals from you, you have a month free. A lot of people don't like to do this, but I do. And then, or one thing that I do for customers that's built into the price is I would take care of weeds in their garden areas.
Mhm.
Bigger, larger companies, they come out, they just spray the lawn and don't even worry about the garden areas. So that's a little incentive that I do that I add on. It's just a quick Scott sprayer, glyphosate 2-gallon mix. Glyphosate is just so cheap, you know. It doesn't cost you more than $20 to give that extra attention to detail that they're just like, wow, this guy takes care of everything.
Yeah.
Crack weeds in the driveway literally only takes an extra 2 or 3 minutes of my time, and customers are extra appreciative and happy with that stuff.
100%.
But yeah, my first couple of people were family and friends, and slowly and progressively, they would see the work being done, referrals. I can't speak for online advertisement. I would say only, if I had to give you a percentage right now off the top of my head, maybe only 15% of my clientele came from online.
Got it. Yeah, I honestly would echo everything you just said, especially for the guys that are just getting started. Most of your business should be coming from word of mouth, especially in the beginning. And, I think the biggest thing that you said there is making sure that you incentivize it. Because one thing that I think everybody can attest to and has seen the effects of maybe is negative word of mouth. People that don't like your service, people that are unhappy, that will spread like wildfire. You do a bad job one time and they will tell everyone they know about it. But if you do a really, really good job, it's just expected, right? And they're happy and they might, leave you a review, or they might tell you how great it looks. But you need to give them a reason to tell everybody else that they know about how great of a job you do as well. So I think what you said is perfect, whether you're doing, discounted service, X amount of referrals as a free service, whatever works best with the services you're offering, the programs that you have, making sure that people know about it as well. And reminding your customers frequently, like, hey, just a quick reminder. I know it's been a while since we talked about it, but, we're looking to grow our business. If there's anybody that that's looking to, have their lawn mowed or treated, whatever, anybody that you refer to me that signs on with our program gets XYZ off their service and something for you as well. We'll give you a free treatment or whatever. So giving people a reason to talk about your business obviously is huge. And then as far as like the digital side of things, 100%, like you from the ground up need to be starting with friends, family, and referrals. And you need to do that for a couple different reasons. One, like you mentioned, getting the revenue built up so that you have, a financially viable business. You don't have a business until you're making money, right? And then also, so that way you can build up a portfolio. And on top of that, you start to work out a little bit more with like the systems side of your business, right? If you have 10 or 20 customers, if you were to go out and pay to run a bunch of ads and get, double that amount of customers, now you're stressing because you don't know how to deliver all the services. So you kind of need to build things up slowly in the beginning so that you have a baseline level of revenue, but also what your capacity is as far as managing all of those clients. And when it comes to other forms of digital marketing, you should really look at that as like pouring gas on the fire, right? You kind of already have to have things going for you before you go out there and spend a bunch of money to try and attract new clients, right? You should have something, a base level already established where you're like, hey, we've got this, we're pretty much maxed out, but we're looking to grow our revenue, and our current clients are all satisfied and we're making enough money to where we can justify bringing on another crew, hiring another guy, adding 20 or 30 new lawns, whatever the goal or whatever the situation might be. But yeah, you definitely have to have everything kind of squared away before you start thinking about stuff like that. So everything you just said, 100%, dude, I totally agree.
Yeah. And one thing I like to be real with everybody. Your first year of business, prepare to take a hit.
Yeah.
Your first year of business, you're going to make a little bit of money, but you're not going to be out there like you will maybe year 3 or year 5. Just prepare to take a hit. You're spending this money on equipment. You're spending this money on, flyers or whatnot. And in my side, chemicals. Once I got my license, I made sure I had every of the best chemical I could, so I can make sure that I take care of these lawns as properly and as fast as I could. So you're going to take a hit your first year of business. You got to spend money to make money. After that, your profits will start to slowly increase as your customer base increases as well. I've unfortunately had uncomfortable conversations with people trying to start a business as well when they come and ask me a mowing business or something like that. And I tell them, well, I started with a mower. I started with a regular push mower, or string trimmer, or blower. Slowly, I bought a trailer. In my trailer, I had my zero turn. I had a bigger mower. I had a smaller mower. I had a bunch of gas powered equipment. I had all this. But that was when I was getting my customers, and I could get those profits that I would have, but decide to get even better equipment to work faster, to do more houses, to make more money. You're going to have to start somewhere. And if you go out there and buy a $10,000 zero turn and only have 4 customers, you're not making profit. You're not making profit.
100%.
So buy the right equipment, take the hit in the beginning, work a little bit, and as you progress, then upgrade your equipment. You could always sell the equipment. Whatever you buy, you could always sell. You're not going to make the same margin that you did buying it, but now you could upgrade to something better. I'll tell you the story of somebody who they had already started the business, and they bought almost the best of the best, right? They bought this 6x10 trailer. They had a zero turn, like a Bobcat zero turn. They had maybe 2 or 3 string trimmers, 2 or 3 blowers, gas cans, everything, but they did not have the customer to upkeep the equipment, because not only are you upkeeping the equipment with maintenance and repairs, but the gas, the traveling, the gas for your truck. And eventually it all fell down. Unfortunately, I was heartbroken for him, but he had to sell his equipment and look at other routes to do a part-time job. So start off, even if it's with a small push mower, string trimmer, and a blower. And as you progress and gain your customers, then get better stuff. I started applicating with a 4-gallon backpack sprayer. That's all I had, a 4-gallon backpack sprayer and 2 5-gallon jugs with pre-mixed chemicals. And I would go out there and spray these lawns. 4,000 square feet worth, refill. 4,000 square feet worth, refill. I already knew from my mowing side, I couldn't jump the gun. I had to start somewhere. And slowly I got another backpack sprayer. I got more tanks. Now I got a 50-gallon tank and a 20-gallon tank. And I use those same backpack sprayers that I started with for just weed applications. So slowly things progress. You get those clientele, you get better equipment, you work faster, you make more profits.
Yeah, 100%. I think the biggest issue that a lot of people are going to have is they try to grow too big too fast. And like you said, they want the nice trailer, the nice equipment, the fancy truck and all that. But it's like, unless you have, like you said, the customer base to support that, it really doesn't mean much. And it's only going to cause you financial trouble on the back end of your business as well. So, definitely starting from the bottom and work your way up, and the equipment and the types of clients and the amount of work you're going to be able to do, the efficiency as that equipment gets better. You got to just start at level 0 and, work your way up from there. 100%. So when it comes to
different routes, one more sorry to cut you
No,
off.
go
There's
ahead.
one more thing you could, if you have the sufficient funds, uh, there's plenty of people selling their company out there, and they'll sell you their customer base as well.
Mm,
And there is your business. You could do that route as well. But now you're talking about, do you have probably 80 grand on hand uh, to buy out that business, buy out all the clients, and just continue that business? You could
yeah,
do that as well. But if you're just starting because you want to get into this business and want to work your way up and build something out of nothing, fortunately, sometimes you have to start from the bottom.
100%. So when it comes to equipment and stuff like that, kind of what we were just talking about, the evolution and the slow upgrade of stuff, what kind of equipment do you have now as far as, what your tool looks like? What does your trailer look like? What kind of stuff are you showing up to a property with to do treatments and things like that?
So I have a 50-gallon spray rig. I have also a 20-gallon. So the 50-gallon spray rig is gas powered. It has a 200-foot hose. That's usually how I do my applications. I have a 20-gallon spray rig also that it's just battery based. But usually what I do with that is if I get a new customer and they need a customized plan rather than my 50-gallon to spray what my progressing customers are doing that month, that's the spray that I'll use for them, a 20-gallon spray rig. And I have maybe three battery powered 4-gallon backpack sprayers from Flow Zone. And I probably have two simple Scott's gallon spray mixes for glyphosates.
Mm,
And that's pretty much it. Right? I am already looking for a split tank, a 200-gallon split tank with 100 and 100.
mm,
That's already in the works. I'm trying to save up for that. I am trying to look out there for maybe a deal that could pop up. If not, I'll probably buy brand new. But that is in the works. A 200-gallon spray rig with a split tank of 100 and 100.
awesome. When it comes to mixing your chemicals and stuff, is that something that you can do, just openly, or do you have to have any like protective gear? Like, what are some of the things that you have to kind of be aware of, or like maybe safety protocol for mixing some of your treatments?
I generally always use PPE. No matter what, I always wear PPE. Even a lot of people don't even use it for fertilizer, and I do. I always make sure I have a long sleeve shirt on. The majority of the time, long pants. Um, Generally, these granular products, they spit out a lot of dust, and rather the wind blows one way or it doesn't, when it blows towards you, that dust is flying into your face, and you can
Mm,
breathe that in. Even something as simple as fertilizer, when I'm out there, I'm always covered with something. So gloves, long sleeve shirts. Um, don't wear shoes, regular shoes, when it comes to spraying, because that claw
yeah,
on the shoe,
soak
it's
it up.
going to just soak it up and seep right through into your pinky, into your toes, into your feet, and it's getting uptaken by all that sweat in your shoes, and it's going through your bloodstream, and you don't even realize it. So, well covered shoes that protect from liquids. Um, Eye gear is important. I don't usually wear eye gear when I'm in my residential lawn, but when I'm out there, I'm always wearing eye gear as well. Respirator mask, a good one. Not these ones that people will go out and buy in COVID times.
Mm,
Those are not good. Usually a respirator with the breathers on the side, with the filters. Um, I forgot what they're called. Even if it's like, I think it's canine mask.
mm,
Is it that they have the respirators? They look like the paper foam ones, but they have at least like an air filter on it. Those are better. But I'm always, always making sure that whatever I say, whether it's on video or in person, personal protection equipment is number one.
mm.
Always. It does not matter what chemical you're using, wear it.
Yeah. I mean, especially in your case where this is pretty much what you're doing all the time, being exposed to it, for a long periods of time is obviously what's going to do the most damage for you. So yeah, in your case, 100%, but even for the average person, like still pretty important. Are
Yeah.
you like, let's say with some of the chemicals specifically, do you know what any of the like long-term or like harmful effects of some of those things could be? Or is it just like, it's chemicals, we know they're bad, let's not expose ourselves to
I'll make it simple for you, man. Death.
it? Yeah, straight up.
Well, one word, death.
Yeah,
Long term, not protecting yourself, you're just looking at shortening your life.
yeah,
It's that simple.
that is pretty cut and dry.
It
Yeah,
is. You're dealing with chemicals that easily get into your bloodstream, easily get into your lungs, easily getting into your eyes. I mean, that's the worst case scenario, death. But you could go blind, you could develop skin cancer, you could develop a rash that will never go away. Your taste buds could go away. You'll never breathe the same. You know, the list goes on and on. But the worst case scenario, if people continue to use chemicals and products without proper PPE, you're just looking at shortening your life.
yeah, 100%. So to bring things kind of back to like the business side, if you look back to your first year in business, what were some of the biggest struggles and challenges that you faced?
Oh, um, I would say number one was taking on any customer I could get my hands on. Again, I was starting with a push mower and I would just mow huge yards. And I'll be there for an hour and a half, 2 hours mowing.
Yeah.
To again, just whatever your price ranges are, eventually you find out your square footage, what you're going to charge and stuff like that. But I would go out there and try to underbid whoever I could and mow these huge yards for almost 2 hours and make only like $60 out of it. And if you calculate that in travel time, gas, equipment, your time, it's not $30 an hour. I'll tell you that.
No.
It's not. Once you start deducting all these stuff, it's not $30 an hour. So even though I'm out there for 2 hours, made $60, it's not $30 an hour. And then traveling from point A to point B, that's in another zip code, just because I wanted these customers. You want to build your clientele, but that's the worst mistake that I wish I could go back and not do. It was very time consuming. It was not profitable whatsoever. And I slowly realized that in time. Now, does that mean for anybody else out there not to do it? No, do it. It's fine. But as you build up, again, we're talking about building up that clientele. When you have these customers that are all generally located in this zone, right? Now, maybe you could say, okay, this one that's all the way over here, maybe I'll give them a nice 30, 60-day heads up that, hey, I'm not going to be able to come out here anymore.
Yeah.
Not because of you. It's not because whatever you want to say. And now you let go of that customer that's very time consuming, not only in travels and miles and gas, but you replace that customer with somebody that's close by locally. So it doesn't mean immediately I'm not going to travel over there anymore. It's okay, keep that customer, but as you build this side up, now you could say, okay, I can't, service this area anymore. Let me concentrate my clientele in this area now.
Yeah, 100%. I can attest to that fully, in the process of growing my own business. I literally everything you just said, like I'm having flashbacks and memories of literally the exact clients where it's like, hey, we kind of realized that this one was way out the way, dude. Like, at the beginning, you're just getting started. You're picking up the scraps, everything that comes your way. You're just like, you feel like you have to do it. And then, you kind of reach that point where the pot boils over and you're like, dude, there's just no way we can get all of this done and service all of these people. And at that point, yeah, you kind of, even though some of the best clients are the ones that you get when you're first getting started and, you really care about them and their property and you've maybe upkept it for a period of time and it's hard to let them go, but you got to put the business first and ultimately, making sure that you're making the best choice for your time and for the money as well, because you can't be in this business for charity, and obviously driving some sort of profit is what's going to allow you to live and also keep the business going. And sometimes those choices are hard to make, especially when, it feels like a big risk letting a customer go, especially in the beginning when you're trying to take everything you can get. It feels crazy to be like, I'm going to let a customer leave, or it's just that mindset is hard to adjust to for some people. But yeah, not all work is good work. Especially kind of maybe not in the beginning, you gotta, get your foot in the door somehow, some way. Once you kind of reach the point where it's like, all right, we've kind of got something established here, then you got to start rerouting and making decisions as far as, hey, I really want to double down in this area, and doing that is important. So 100%.
Yep. Definitely agree. I mean, in a business, in life in general, you always have to make mistakes to learn from it. But if somebody's experienced it, rather it's you, rather it's I, and we could pass this information along, it's helpful for the audience and for anybody in the future who wants to get into stuff like this. And that goes for any business in general. Unless you're setting up shop in one location, if it's a business that, rather it's plumbing, electrical, or stuff like this, lawn service, you gotta take these little bits of information that you can find on social media, people who have experienced this, and put it into thoughts, even though you're going to make your own mistakes out there as well. But just keep that in the general back of your mind that this is going to happen, and this is how probably you could even handle it in the future. So yeah, good questions and good tips that you're also providing out there too.
Yeah, 100%. There's someone watching this hopefully right now that needed to hear that. And I don't know about in your case, but in mine specifically, by the time we had made that decision to let some of those customers that were way outside of our service area go, it had already cost us a bunch of time and a bunch of money. So it's one of those things where it's like, it might feel hard in the moment, but take it from someone that's been there, listen to the advice, and whether or not you act on it is up to you. But sometimes learning things the hard way is part of business too. So, it is what it is, but 100%.
Well, you will run into a lot of characters. You will run into a lot of unsociable people. You will run into hard customers. You will run into good customers. You're going to experience all of this, and it's going to be a fun ride. Just enjoy it. But the best thing to do is just learn from it.
Absolutely. 100%. That's all you really can do at the end of the day is take what you're given, make the best of it, notice some things along the way, and improve on them over time. So that's really it. So kind of the follow-up question to that, what spawned all that was, struggles within the first year. If you compare that to now, what are some of the biggest challenges you're facing, like you said, 6, 8, 10 years deep into the business, where obviously things look different, things feel different, what you're doing service-wise is different. What are some of the challenges you're facing now?
Right now, so in the applicating side, weather changes year to year. Right now, we are in such a hot and dry spell that I constantly am getting calls about why does my grass look like this? Is there anything you could do, to help with this? And it's, no, I can't. You have to up your watering. We're in a dry spell right now. It's very hot. We're at the end of spring, going into the beginning of summer, and it's just so darn hot and so dry. It's not casual in Florida around this time. Literally, we're in May. Today is June. We're in June now, right?
June 1st.
Yeah, today is June 1st. We just had May. We had absolutely no May showers to bring these April flowers. We had, how's it go? April showers or May showers? April showers for May flowers?
I know the saying you're referring to, but I forget. Like April showers, May flowers, or something like that.
Something like that. Well, we've had absolutely none of that. That's what I'm trying to get to. We've had no showers. The lawns are very, very dry. And there's nothing I could do. There's literally nothing I could do. It's up for the resident in that area to increase the watering, just to help that little bit. Um, so weather wise, it's so ridiculous. I mean, last year this time in Florida, maybe not this time, but last month we were probably like 3 feet underwater. We had about 100 and some, almost 100 and something inches of rain fall in less than 24 hours, and everything was flooded.
Mm.
Come this year, we haven't had more than probably 2 inches of rain, and everything is dry.
Yeah.
So it's something that I'm still trying to learn how to tackle in the applicating side. I mean, I've done this for a little while now, and you should technically know what you're doing, but everything is a learning curve because Mother Nature is not going to be the same every year. So what I may have maybe applied last year this time, now looks like I can't apply it this time. I'm going to have to save it for another time because it may have drying time that it needs to stay stuck to the leaf blade because it's foliar absorbed, and I don't need the customer to water this in. So now you're talking about extra non-watering and something that could dry up the plant even more. So now I have to make adjustments, and that's what I'm going through right now. It's so troubling and challenging when the weather doesn't when the weather's not the same as previous years or historical data.
Mm. What you just said right there kind of made me think a little bit more too. Like there are probably, guys out there that maybe they do landscaping, maybe they do lawn care, lawn mowing and maintenance, and they've thought about, hey, what if we just added, treatments or fertilizing or, lawn care side of things into our service program. What you just said right there, like there's a lot of science, there's a lot of math, there's a lot of paying attention to the weather, and just there's a lot more that goes into how you treat your lawns and what needs to be done at certain times of the year based off of weather and all these other factors. Like, is that something that you would recommend companies that have other services add? Or would you say, hey, if you're going to do the fertilization thing, just do that because it's so involved. And if you want to do it and do it properly, you're going to have to be paying attention to all of this stuff all the time. And if not, obviously you're going to, screw things up. But, for maybe a business that is less established, but's looking to, hey, we want to add more services, stuff like that. Obviously, there's companies that are at bigger scales where they can have a whole department just for this. But let's say, a guy that's got 2 or 3 crews that's thinking, hey, we could make more money by adding this to our services. What are some things that you would recommend to them? And do you think it's possible to add this in? Or is it more just like, hey, if you're going to do it, go all in on the treatment and just really, really know your stuff with that? I know that was kind of a long-winded question, but.
Yeah. To get your feet wet again, start with the fertilizer. The fertilizer, you can just go out there, except for the blackout periods, which we're actually currently in right now. I believe it starts June 10th. You could fertilize maybe every 3 to 4 months. 3-4 applications of fertilizer is sufficient. At maybe 0.25 to 0.50 pounds per thousand of nitrogen. And I speak in those terms because that's how I put it in my head, but that's usually what they call half a pound of nitrogen for your lawn, which is sufficient enough for at least 3 to 4 months. Yeah. And then if you could keep that up, knowing that you're dry, knowing that you also have to mow the lawn, knowing that a downpour is coming, if you can keep up with that maintenance, work your way into the herbicide parts. Fine, go ahead. It's usually very straightforward and very repetitive. And once you do it for a year, maybe 2, it's usually just the same thing over and over. But when it comes to times like this, where times change, you have to go with the program. So you have to know what you're doing. Or else you're going to have an issue with your business insurance of having to resod 20 properties because now they're all dead because of something that you did that you shouldn't have done. and everything dried up, and now the customer's pretty agitated,
Yeah.
and they want their loan back.
Yeah. 100%. So
Really
obviously,
have to pay attention to the times and the label. I don't know how many times I have to say in end quotes and in videos, label is law. All of it. If it's 1 ounce that you're supposed to put in per gallon, it's 1 ounce. It's usually always better to be under than over when it comes to this field.
yeah.
Over can cause a lot of problems. Under, you can make adjustments and say, well, I messed this up. I got to reapply. And now I know I got to reapply this rate.
Yeah.
You can't undo what you did at an over rate.
So it's a lot like cooking then, where, if you want to start with an ingredient, you can put a little in, give it a taste test. And if it needs more, you can add more. But once you put too much in, you can't take it out. The deal is done.
Yep. Try to put a handful of salt on that meat and
Yep. Absolutely. So
you are right. I like that. Yeah. Definitely.
So having been in this business for a pretty long time, what would you say you've noticed are some of the biggest changes in the industry from when you started till now?
In the modern times, we're looking at a lot of AI and robots, right? There's already drones out there flying in agriculture farmlands that are doing pesticide applications, fertilizer applications. There's now robots out there that people could buy to mow their lawn. There's even robots that have an AI, artificial intelligence, built into it in the chip that it can detect when this is not a grass and this is a weed, and it'll give it like a quick burn. It won't give it a chemical spray, but it'll give it like a burn.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowledge that's out there, the internet is an open library that somebody could decide from today and tomorrow, say, hey, Danny, I no longer need your services. I more or less see your, and it's true. And I'll just say it, I'm very honest about this in my invoices of a lot of businesses in my field do. They'll tell you what was applicated that month. And these customers keep the invoice and they'll say, oh, okay, well, this month I know he did pre-emergence. And then this month he did fertilizer. And then this month he applied, we don't do this here, but lime. And this month he applied a herbicide or a fungicide. So they'll just start jotting this down and be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I could do this moving forward. And they'll just say, okay, well, I'm going to go buy a backpack sprayer and try this out my own. So the internet has also opened up that for a lot of DIY out there. And it's very challenging also when you have a lot of companies doing the same thing. That is very hard. So that's why I try to do these little knick-knack things to try to outskirt myself more than these other guys, like the garden beds, the crack weeds, the referrals, stuff like that. I can't tick for tack a big organization that will do my lawn for $30. But me personally, I would do my own lawn if I had to get the business for maybe $55. I can't go down to 30 to try to compete with bigger companies because they get cheaper rates or whatever. But what I could do is do the best work, do a little bit of extra stuff here and there, and they could see the extra attentive things that I do for them.
100%. And I think that for a lot of small business owners, regardless of what field or industry you're in, what you just said there is kind of the key, right? Where these bigger conglomerates, these bigger companies, because of the volume that they're able to do, they're always going to have maybe the cheapest prices or at least competitive prices that you're going to have to, be mindful of, and that some customers, that'll be a more appealing option. But as the small business, where you can set yourself apart is by offering more attention to detail, more personalized service, and maybe going above and beyond and doing some of the extra other little things that those companies it's not even on their radar, not because they don't want to do it or don't know that it could be done, but they're just doing so much volume that it's kind of the cookie cutter get in and get out service, right? And for some people, whether it's because of their budget or, any other reason, they don't really care. That's just, they just want it done. They know it needs to get done, and the cheapest price will, be the person that comes and does it. So if you can set yourself apart and just do those extra kind of tiny little things, or offer kind of more of a boutique service where, like you said, your treatments are customized per month to these clients based off of what their lawn needs. So, if you can find the people, and obviously there will be, that are looking for that kind of thing, you can still carve out kind of a niche or like a lane for yourself and for your business by doing that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And find what works for you, Maybe the advice that I give, messing around with glyphosate isn't something that somebody likes to do, but I don't know, just a little bit of extra detail is usually what customers see, that they're like, that sparks their interest to say, this is the guy that I want, this is the guy that I want long term, and this is the guy that I want to refer to whoever it is that asks me about it, especially when it comes to people who are just doing in and outs, right? I've gotten a handful of referrals of somebody complaining about that company, right? Oh, they came, they sprayed, they left, or they missed a spot, or they didn't even do my backyard because they didn't even call to see if my gate was open, which it was open. I let customer service know, etc. And then I'll be like, hey, well, I know this guy. He does great work. I don't know what he will price you at, but maybe you should give him a call for a quote. Mm-hmm. And and I'll hear about their experiences, and I'll tell them, well, that's not me. I'm definitely not like that. I'm very attentive to what I do. I make sure that the job is well done, and I'm available if you call me. You have my number. If anything happens, call me. I've had customers call me. They're not on my route yet, but maybe they have a party this weekend, right? And it's, as long as I can get to them in time, it's Tuesday or Wednesday. And they're like, I just need that extra touch of green in my grass just to look good in my party. No problem. I'm out there. I'll be out there the next day. I'll spray some iron or some sulfur or some ammonium sulfate, something to give it that green color. And man, are they so satisfied when it comes to the party, because everybody's just like, how is your lawn so green? Oh, your lawn is so beautiful. And, it gives them that good feeling. And then it gives me that good feeling when they come and they tell me, everybody loved the lawn. Everybody, as a matter of fact, 2 people got your number, and they may be giving you a call. And it's that extra customer service, that extra attention to detail that customers love. That's how you keep your customers, gain customers, and continue to make your profits, and continue to offer the prices that these bigger corporations are lowballing, because they have that customer base and that movement that you can't offer, but you can offer all this other stuff.
Yep. 100%. On that note, I do have a couple questions, because I've seen these products, online, or, videos of people doing it. But like grass spray, turf spray, and also people putting it on mulch where it's just like a dye. So instead of like buying new mulch, which, obviously if you just want it to be a certain color and look good, that's fine, disregarding the fact that new mulch offers, nutrients and other things for the soil and plants that are there. You should kind of recycle it from time to time. But what do you think about, the sprays for mulch and for the lawns, where you can, basically go in and either spray it or dye it, and it's like dark, lush green. Like what do you think about some of those applications? And also, what is it that they are? Is it paint? Is it a chemical? I know you said iron or something like that. So if you could just tell us a little more about like your opinion on those, and also maybe how they work for those people that, like myself, don't really know.
Right. So is it the paint when the lawn is dormant and they paint it and it's green again, and it's no longer brown? Okay. Yeah. So that's a safe paint for the grass. It's regular paint. It's green, but it's just I don't know if it's like some type of oil base that it's safe for the grass. It'll eventually wash off. But those are for like the hardcore people that they have to see their lawn green all year round. So when the ground is frozen, that their lawn is now going into dormancy, especially if you're in a transition zone, or higher, and you have warm season grass, which is usually Bermuda, centipede, zoysia, St. Augustine. These grass types, they like the hot weather. And once the cold weather comes in, they're like, well, no, I'm checking out. This is not for me. I'll see you next spring. So you could buy grass paint, and it's not harmful to the environment. It's not harmful to the grass. It's just for these hardcore people who just want their grass green just a little bit longer to enjoy. You can't mow it, but to enjoy that green look. Is there anything wrong about it? No. I don't have an opinion about it because we're green here year round. It never goes dormant here in South Florida. But there's no harm, no foul. It's not going to damage your grass. It's not going to harm the environment. It's not poisonous to the point that it's like, oh my God, you're spraying poison in your lawn. To each their own. I prefer if my lawn is done, I wish I could say that. If my lawn is done, thank you. I need that break. No more fertilizing, no more pesticides, no mowing. I can sit back and relax. I don't have that here in South Florida, so I don't have that privilege. But no harm, no foul there. When it comes to the mulch dyeing, I actually want to do that. I don't see anything wrong with that either. I mean, mulch eventually breaks down and it could look ugly. But if it's just lost its color because it's been 100 days already, usually mulch the color lasts about 100 days, 120 days. And it looks thick and firm and still good. And you just want to paint over it to keep it brown or red or black. That's fine also. Is it safe for the plants? I'm not sure. It should be, since mulch is usually used around those areas. So I'm pretty sure that whoever invented these products justifiably tested these around plants, because not everybody's going to cover their plants to spray this, or just going to spray the mulch. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. I mean, I've even wanted to buy it myself and try it out. I hate taking out old mulch and then putting a new mulch. Yeah. So if I can keep the old mulch there for another year and a half or something, by all means.
Right on. How do you feel about red mulch?
It's I think they should get rid of it.
Yeah.
I think it's just everywhere. It's commercial property. To me, that's like the McChicken,
Yeah.
Everybody likes it and it's cheap, just get it.
Yeah.
And it looks pretty for a little bit, but red mulch it is what it is. I prefer black mulch in any job that I do. Any landscaping job, I prefer black mulch, which I can't talk because my wife made me put red mulch here, but.
Oh, no.
But I prefer black mulch because it gives it that almost natural look, like if it's dirt color from afar.
Yeah.
So I prefer black.
Cool. Had to ask that question. What do you guys do as far as protecting your business legally, financially? I know obviously a big piece of it is all of the licenses and stuff that you guys have to carry in order to even apply or set foot on certain properties and to do this as a business. But when it comes to, dealing with clients, customers, getting paid, stuff like that, with your programs, do you guys have like contracts or service agreements, or how do you kind of structure things like that to make sure that, you and your business are covered?
Yep. So this year I definitely started with the contracts and agreements. I definitely started doing that this year. Previous years it was just, here's your invoice, pay me. If you don't pay me, I'm just not going to show up next month. And I will send you to a small claims court or something. But no, definitely this year I did service all my properties with agreements. Some I lost maybe about a handful of customers that they weren't with that. But pretty much what it is just covering me, that they're with me for these 10 programs for this year. And if they sign up for the entire year at a one lump sum price, they get a discount. Or if not, they pay me as a monthly service for their services. Actually, one big mistake that I've done in the past is I'll service and I'll invoice, and I'll service and I'll invoice. I learned now that if I can't get out there for 2 weeks because it's raining, I'm still going to invoice you because I'm still going to service you. And I still need that money, that income, that profit to buy the chemical that I need to service you when I'm going to go out there. So I can't just wait to service to get paid. Should be like that. But I'm going to go out there. I'm going to service you. I still need the money up front to buy this chemical, which the chemicals I buy in bulk or in big jars. It's not a something that you can buy in Home Depot, $20, right? We're talking about $200 and up chemicals that is coming out of my pocket, and I need to use for all these lawns. So I did start doing contracts and agreements this year. I did a new incentive that if you want to pay for the whole year, you get an X amount of discount for doing it. I have all my money up front. I just got to go out there and do my job. And then route tracking, invoicing, and all this stuff. I'm still actually doing this the old-fashioned way with Excel. I was using a program earlier, but I noticed that I don't need the program right now because my customers are only this much. If I had this much, I definitely need that program, which could do auto invoicing, auto completion of tasks, meaning jobs. Like I showed up to this area on time, I checked it off the list, it moved me on to the next one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was just a extra expense I did not need at the time that I thought that I needed, but I generally really don't need it. So I'm still doing that the old-fashioned way.
Gotcha. In your contracts and stuff, do you have anything put in there as far as liability for results in the lawn? So obviously you're a professional and it would never happen, right? But let's just say for some reason, the grass starts to look a certain way or something happens, and there's factors that are out of your control. And certainly the homeowner has to understand that. But do you build anything into your agreements where it's like, hey, we're obviously doing everything to the best of our knowledge with years of experience, but, in the case that something happens or there's, other factors that play into this and results that are something happens that's not what we want, right? Not the desired outcome. How do you kind of set that up with the customer, and if that's a part of your agreements or not?
I think that all comes in. So in the agreement, I will touch on that right now. But before I take on a customer, it all comes down to the questionnaire. I have a small little questionnaire that I would know if me and this person are going to be the right fit. Yeah. Which the first thing that I'm going to look at is if they have sprinklers. Are they mowing? Do they have another landscape company that's mowing? If they have another landscape company that's mowing, I generally ask them, when is the time period that they show up? Are they going to show up this week or bi-weekly? Did they show up last week? So I can have an idea so I don't cross paths with these people. One, to waste my time because I'm going to show up to a property, they're mowing, and I have to wait for them to finish, or I can't do anything now. Or I spray something, and I generally tell the customer, no watering, no mowing for 24 hours. The landscape company shows up the next day, mows the yard, and now what I did pretty much just went to clippings and trash. So I have to come back out there and spray. So into the questionnaire, I asked them that I make sure I am very real with them. Generally, in my head, I have a percentage of how I look at the lawn. Is this lawn 10% salvageable, 20%, 50%? Does it look like I could take it on? How long will it possibly take? And I am very real with the customer. I tell them this is not an overnight success. This is going to take some time. If you cannot wait X and O amount of time, that I can guarantee at least an 80% success rate, right? Of how your lawn looks now to how it's going to look later. I would just suggest that we're not the best fit. And I'll be very honest with you. No other company is going to do this, whether they're cheaper or more expensive. than me. My best bet to tell you is just resod the lawn. And if you want to keep it maintained that way, you're more than welcome to hire me and we could just keep it and maintain it. But if you're full of weeds, if there's insect problems, if there's disease problems, if there's mix and matching of grass types, because that happens also. I just tell them up front everything that I'm seeing, how long it could possibly take, what I'm going to do, my first plan of attack, maybe the first 2 or 3 plans of attacks before I get them into my monthly routine for the customizable plan. And generally in 90 days, if they're not happy, their agreement is terminated. They don't have to stay with me. They don't have to owe me the next 7 months. This is how I do it, right? This is how I do it because I believe a lot in myself. And that's something that I have to keep my confidence up and tell myself, I know I can do this. So I usually tell them 90 days, as long as it's a good time in the weather, right? Spring, summer, and maybe early fall here down in South Florida. I can't guarantee them this in winter time because the grass isn't growing or anything like that. Maybe I'll tell them sign up with me in spring and we could do that. I usually tell them, give me 90 days. If in 90 days you're not happy and this is in the contract, if you don't see the weeds are dying, the grass is there, things are getting greener, the grass is spreading, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we can call this contract terminated. Or now moving forward, this contract, we abide by it. And meaning, if you decide to leave me in month 7, unfortunately, I would love to be the good guy, but we have a contract. You still owe me 1, 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's definitely a good way to structure things. Because obviously, like, there are liabilities. You don't want to show up. And if the lawn gets worse, obviously they're looking at you like, hey, this was supposed to be, this, and this, when in reality, there's plenty of things that could have happened that were outside of your control to make that happen. Right. And then also a big thing there too, that you touched on, client expectations. Obviously, there are some people out there where what they think is the reality is very, very far off from what's actually going to happen. And, they're expecting you to show up and they wake up and go outside the next morning and their whole lawn is perfectly green. And, the timeline for what it takes to actually change and see good results, like you said, give it that 90 days. Let's kind of do this, treat it as like a trial run, let's see how things go. And at the end of the 90 days, make your decision, stuff like that. I think that's something that a lot more people should implement into their businesses, where you don't have to marry the customer on the first date. You know what I mean? And I think another question that would be good for you is, what are some of the things that you look for in a customer during that first interaction that would make you say, I don't want to work with this person? What are the red flags when bringing on new clients, things that are going to make you be like, I don't know if this is the right fit? And that could be their property or their lawn, or just certain things about them too that are kind of like, hey, for my own personal sake and for the sake of my business, I don't think us, working together is going to be a good fit.
So in the questionnaire, the very first question that I asked is, do you have sprinkler system? Whether it's above ground or rather it's underground sprinkler system, I have to take on a customer that has a sprinkler system. As mentioned, right now we're in a dry spell. Even with sprinkler systems, things are looking not so hot, right? Things are looking extra crispy. So imagine if they didn't have a sprinkler system. Things are just dried up, possibly even dead. There's nothing that I could do that would magically make this grass reappear and be as green and as lush as they want. So that is the very first go or no go. If they have, we move forward. If they don't, I tell them this is the expectation that you're going to have without a sprinkler system. And there's easy ways to avoid this. To buy anything on Amazon. I've had it before I installed my sprinkler system, and it's something that could help. But if they're not willing and they think that it's up to me, right there is already a no-go. And then the customers that just think that they know it all, right? They tell me, well, you need to do this first. And I'm like, well, no, I don't need to do that first. I know what I need to do first. Or no, I need to see the weeds gone first, or you need to fertilize my lawn, or they're trying to tell me what they see in their lawn, and I think differently. If I see a mountain of fire red ants in their lawn, and I tell them you have a insect problem, and they tell me no, I have a disease problem, I already know that I'm going to have a lot of issues with this customer, because Google told them so. And I don't want those headaches. We go into business for ourselves, to be our own boss, to be our own entrepreneurs, to make our own money, to not have to listen to the complaints and the knickknacks of other people. You'll still get that. But if you get that right off the bat, you don't want a long-term relationship like that, to deal with stress and to deal with that mindset of, oh, I have to go visit this customer today. Where's the joy in that when you have a small business?
Absolutely. 100%. So one thing that you mentioned earlier that I think is absolutely brilliant and is something that I've recommended to other people as well is having those contracts, those agreements in place, but also offering your, whatever the term of that contract, 10 months, a year, the full mowing season, the full year's worth of applicants at the start of the year, and getting paid in full, maybe at a discount, for offering that payment completely upfront. Not only does that solve a ton of cash flow issues for you throughout the rest of the season, especially in the beginning when you're just getting started and there isn't a ton of money coming in, a lot of new customers signing on. And you obviously, like you said, you got to go out and buy the chemicals, you got to buy the equipment, you got to kind of, get things rolling for a little bit before the money coming in from the business matches or succeeds the amount that you've spent to kind of get things rolling for the season. So I think that is absolutely brilliant. And there's a bunch of other services that applies to, whether it be lawn mowing or snow plowing, snow removal, stuff like that, or even tree trimming, anything that you're going to do for that property, bundling it, all of your services together and offering that to the client at the start of the season for maybe a 10, whatever, 20% discount. If you want to share what percent you do, that would be awesome too, just for some of the guys that can maybe get a better idea and piece it together for themselves. But I think that it's really awesome. And then also on top of that, an additional benefit is that you're going to have that customer for the entire season. And it helps you project a little farther into the future as far as what your workload's going to look like. Also, your finances for the business, if you know that you're in a good position or if you're growing, and also just, having your schedule booked out so you know what you can take on as far as new work with customers that you're going to be servicing for the whole year. So that's something that is really huge. And obviously not every client's going to take it. Not everyone's going to go for it. But for the ones that do, it's really awesome. And obviously that helps you out a ton as a business owner as well. So
yeah, and definitely learn. Obviously not in the beginning, but if you're good at selling and you're good at speaking to customers, you know how to sell something. That is something to definitely to just go out there and sell, even if you're starting off. If you're just starting off, that is something you could think of and how to sell this. Put a script together. But this is the script that you're going to stick to. It's a good selling point, and go out there and sell it. Like you said, you have your money up front for your equipment, for et cetera stuff, and it'll help out in the long term. But it's definitely helped me this year. And believe it or not, I didn't think any of my customers would take this offer. But as soon as I guess, they see the savings and tax season comes around, they're like, well, I have these tax money. I'm going to save some money in the long run. Well, here you go, which I offer 10%, 10% off for the entire year.
Yep. That's solid.
Right. So if it's $1,000, 10%, $900, it's $900 up front that you could probably get, that I could probably get chemicals for the next 4 or 5 months for just one customer. And now everything else is profit.
100%, which is the way to go. The only caveat that I would add is if you're going to do something like this, I wouldn't do it without having a contract or formal agreement in place. Only for the sake that you don't want to get 3 or 4 months or 6 months into the year and this client has other expectations as far as the work that should be done. And you want to make it very clear what they're getting for what they're paying for with that upfront service. And inside of that document, outlining and detailing exactly what treatments are going to be applied, when, what services are included. And, if there's add-ons or extra things that their property needs, making it clear that like, hey, this is something that's outside of what we're offering with this. It will be an additional charge. We're still happy to do it, but just know what falls into that paid in full service package and what is outside of that, just to cover your own butt, because you don't want to have to deal with that. And clients having expectations of things that should be done, or, hey, we paid in full for this, you should be doing this, this, and this. It's like, you want to save yourself those conversations and those headaches and make sure that it's very detailed and thorough as far as what they're actually purchasing with that. That's the only other thing that I would add on to that. But as far as using that as a strategy with your business, I think it's super, super important and impactful for you.
That is very correct. That is 100% correct. And you are right. I didn't add that in, but 100% correct. Before you guys think about doing any type of service contract, especially if you're going to offer a discount for the whole year, you have to know your business. You have to know it from A to Z, because you can't offer these things and take a hit, or as you mentioned, the expectations of what's an add-on and what's not, for the customer. It needs to be broken down, and it needs to be very clear, and it needs to be known when the signature is put on there that this is all broken down, and everybody is an understanding of what is the expectation and what is going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Definitely.
What you just said there is super important too. That's probably the second thing that needs to be understood, is you as the business owner, and within the business, you need to know the numbers, because that agreement, if you're getting paid in full for a year's worth of services and you have a certain percentage of your client list that takes that offer, you have an opportunity to collect a lot of cash up front, which is going to help your business obviously throughout without the year. And you can generate a lot of income in a short period of time at the beginning of the season, which is great. But what you don't want to do is end up 8 months into a 12-month agreement and realize that you're losing money, because you can't renegotiate. Those contracts were signed. The cash has already been collected, and that customer is expecting services for the rest of the year, whether you're operating at a loss or not. So if you're going to do that, especially if you're going to offer a discount, you still need to factor in your margins. You still need to know your numbers. You still need to know your operating costs, because you can, with a year-long service contract like that, as much good and as much benefit that you can reap from that kind of agreement, you can also really dig yourself in a deep hole if you don't structure it properly and if you don't know your numbers and don't bid it correctly. So yeah, that's a huge piece of it as well. You got to know
there's
that.
no getting out of that, especially if there's a contract involved. If you find out 8 to 10 months down the road you're losing money and not gaining money, you cannot go to the customer and tell them, well, this is what happened. There is no ands if or buts. You definitely need to know. That's why I would say probably after your first year is when you should do it, because the first year you're always going to take the biggest hit. You're always in a learning path. You're always trying to upgrade your machines. You're getting your clientele base up there. So, maybe this is something to do year 2, but know the business first. And there's a lot of small business Excel workbooks that are out there that can help you with these things. All you got to do is just plug in numbers, and you can see if you're making a profit or if you're making a loss. Because it's not only the maintenance of the lawnmower, it's not only the gas, it's not only your time. If you're using a vehicle, which obviously you are, your truck, that's maintenance, that's gas. Are you providing for your family? Are you a single person? You got to calculate all of these things to make sure you're making a profit as if you were working for a business somewhere else. Because if you're collecting a check at Target that they pay you bi-weekly $800, and you're saying, well, this is good, then that's the same mindset that you need when you start your own business. That this is good. Not that, now I'm in business for myself and I'm saying I'm not making the same amount that I'm making in Target, just to say, And that's because I didn't put my numbers right. My numbers are not right. I didn't calculate all these things. I'm not putting my, well, per acre, I'll mow at this price or whatever it is. There's a lot of mathematics and analytics and things that you have to sit down and think about to start your own business. It's fine and dandy if you're a teenager and you want to go out there and mow for $25 to have your side money while you're living at home. But if you're a single grown man or woman that wants to get into any type of business, you have to really know your competitors, what they're charging, and how you're going to make a profit out of your own business to succeed. And it's just, I think that's the first thing that you should do before even buying the equipment, before even thinking about, am I going to head this way? Play with an Excel spreadsheet. If I charge this price, then my competitor is charging this price, will it be sufficient enough for me to make a profit? And think long term.
100%. Yeah, it's some of the math is easier than others. You don't have to overcomplicate it. There's obviously going to be things that once you start your business, you're going to be realizing there's other costs and other things involved. But like you said, if you just are curious or thinking about it, do some market research, figure out what other people are doing. Maybe if you have some resources or some connections, talk to some other business owners in the area. If they're in the same field as you, even better, and get a realistic expectation of what kind of money is possible within this industry at what kind of scale of business. And, obviously you're going to be starting at zero. So how long is it going to take you to get to a point where it's generating this much? And, like you said, too, having kind of a long-term mindset about it where understand your first 1 or 2 years, even it's going to be a struggle and financially it might not be paying off. And you probably would be better off working at McDonald's or Target because a lot of your money is going to be putting back into the business to grow it and get it to a level where it's actually generating, a significant amount of money for you. So all those things put together, it's a choice that you have to make for yourself. But if you can make it an educated one by talking to other people and crunching some numbers beforehand, I think you're have a much more realistic expectation, and having realistic expectations will certainly give you a better chance of success. I think 100%.
And I don't mean to be Debbie Downer here. It's fun. Once you get the ball rolling, it's great. I mean, I have additional income coming in that I didn't have, years ago. That it's helping me. It helps not only my business grow, but it's money put to the side to maybe invest in something else. And it's something that I enjoy doing. So it gives me time to go out and do something that I enjoy doing rather than, sitting at home or splurging my money in something else. And it just gives you a sense of satisfaction that you're also doing something with your life and it's progressing to something better. And hopefully it's something to pass down to your kids if they enjoy doing it. Or even the worst case scenario that people tell me, oh my God, well, all of this sounds like a lot and I don't think I could take this on. And it sounds like a lot of money and a lot of time. And it is. And eventually people grow out of their business and say, well, now I want to retire. You could sell your business. People don't see this also as an investment, right? You could a company could easily buy you out, or somebody can come and purchase your business. So this is also an investment opportunity. Just like if you were buying a house, just like if you were putting money into the stock market. Fortunately, you're working for this and you're building it up. But let's say in 10 years, I say, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'd rather work for a big corporation and know that I have dental insurance, health insurance, 401k, and blah, 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 blah. And I could just sell my business off. And that's an investment that I did that now I'm profiting of. I worked hard for, but it's not like I'm going to let go of all my clients and that's it. No. I'm going to sell my business off.
Yeah.
I could sell it at a good margin, $90,000, $100,000, and somebody's going to want to buy it because somebody wants those customers, especially the bigger corporations. The bigger companies, they want all the customers they could get. So they're more than happy to buy you off and get your clientele And unfortunately, now it's up to your customer's decision to go with them or just do it themselves or not sign up. But it's an investment opportunity also. It's not like you could do this forever. You do it as long as you want, but you could sell off your business. And people don't see that part. So just wanted to mention that part there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, especially in the beginning, it's going to feel like you're doing a ton of work for very little reward. But what people don't see is the long-term picture of the asset that you're building up as a result of all of that. Like that very big payday could come in 20 years or 10 years, whatever, when you sell the business, when you exit the business. But in that first 1 to 2 years where you're not making a dime and everything's going back into it, it's going to feel like, you know, an absolute struggle, and you're going to question if it's worth it. Should you keep going? I've been better off doing something else. All of those thoughts, I'm sure, are things that pretty much every business owner has at one point or another. But yeah, you are building something that will have long-term value. You just need to stick in the game long enough to see that. And that's the part where a lot of people give up is, you know, when things get hard, typically people are more likely to throw in the towel and move on to something else than stick through it. But on the other side of that is obviously a lot of value that you're missing out on that you're not seeing in the beginning. So 100% agree with that.
Yep. Definitely.
Right on. So is there anything else you want to talk about? If not, I'll get on to my last question for you here.
No, everything's been pretty good questions so far. I was a little bit nervous. I haven't done a live in a while, but yeah, you've been doing great. Good hosting.
Appreciate
Feel
it.
very comfortable.
Thank you. So one thing that I like to do that I've started recently with these episodes is I'll ask the previous guest for a question that they want me to ask the next person, and vice versa. So my last question is actually two questions in one. It's a question from the previous guests that I had on, Rich and Chris from Black Diamond Design Landscaping. One of them said, if there's one thing that you could change about yourself, what would it be? And just for a little bit of context, towards the end of that one, we talked about a lot of things. We kind of got into some, like, you know, personal development, stuff like that, and the mindset, or the understanding at least, that, you know, your business is only going to grow to the level that you grow as a person. And a lot of times you don't have business problems, you have personal problems manifesting in your business. So we talked about a lot of stuff like that. So that was kind of the reference, or like the framing of their question was, you know, if you could change one thing about yourself as a person, as a business owner, what would it be and why?
That's a good question.
Deep question.
That's deep. Being a small business and now having to manage to bring the income home and all that, there is hardly any time for family. Make time for family, because family is always going to be there for you. They're the ones who are supporting you through all of this. And even if you just show up, if you leave at 8 o'clock in the morning and come home at 8 o'clock at night, make time for them. Because at the end of the day, whether your business goes good or goes bad, your family has been there to support you. And if they don't feel that support back from you while building this business, it could trample your whole world. It could trample your whole world, and it doesn't matter how successful you are in a small business. If you lose your family because you have so much time now built into your business, it's like you did nothing at all. So make time for your family no matter what. I technically don't like to work weekends. I like to work Monday through Friday. And then weekends are just primarily for them. But it doesn't matter what time I get home. I am with my kids. I spend time with my family until they go to bed. I play with my kids. It does not matter how tired I am. I make sure that I wash up first because of chemicals and stuff like that. But I am with them until the point that they fall asleep. because I know that they have my back throughout all of this, and I need to show them that I'm still there for them throughout all of this as well. That my focus is not only business and making money. My focus is my family and love first, and my priority.
100%. That's real. I love that.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
So with that being said, what's your question for the next person that I have on? And most likely it'll be another lawn care, landscape business owner, someone pretty similar to yourself.
Gosh, let's see. This is.
It could be like a personal question like that one. It could be about business. It could be about anything. The door is wide open. Whatever's top of mind.
Okay. Here's a question that I've always had. And I've never really asked it, but now I'm going to put it on you to ask.
All right.
For the next person. So if it's a person who works solo or with a group or has a crew, do they have their spouse working with them? And how is that relationship like? Bringing work home and then home to work. How is that relationship? Is it still strengthening? Is it still good? Is it now you have days that you're just like at all with each other, like you again?
Okay.
So that's kind of my question. How is it working with your spouse? If they're working with their spouse, and if they're not working with their spouse, would they let their spouse work with them? Somebody is going to get in a back burner.
Someone's sleeping on the couch in the next podcast episode. All right. That's an awesome question. I will definitely make sure to relay that on to the next guest that we have. And I'm trying to think. I have a couple pending that might be scheduled for next week. And I'm trying to think who the best person to ask that question would be. And I'll try to get them on next. So I'll definitely, I'll hit you back when we get another person on here and you can check it out and see what they had to say for their question, for that answer, for the questions. But yeah, 100%, man. Obviously, when we go to post this, I will have all of your links to your website, company site, Instagram, any other social medias and stuff. I'll definitely have you send those over to me when we're done. But in the meantime, for the people watching this, go ahead and just tell people where they can find you at.
Well, guys, I'm available on Instagram and YouTube. Both of them, you can search Dan the Lawman. I'm available on either one. Give great tips. I also take on messages. If you guys have messages about your lawn, we could have a quick chit chat about it. I'll ask for videos, pictures. I definitely won't charge you for consultations. I'll give you the best advice that I have possible. I don't have the right answer, which I'll be 100% dead honest with you. I'll find the answer for you. So I hope to see you guys around there, Instagram and YouTube.
100%. And obviously, Dan, learned a bunch from you during the course of, talking with you today. But also, guys, definitely go check out the Instagram and YouTube. There's a lot of great content, helpful information and stuff that you can find there. So again, I'll have all of those linked down below. Dan, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking some time out of your afternoon to come on and talk with me. Greatly appreciate it. And for you guys watching, we'll be back with another episode very, very shortly. Thanks.